Okay, I just... Sometimes when I listen to Candace Owens... Why Owens? This is what happens when you don't use a script, kids. Use a script! Anyway, sometimes when I listen to Candace Owens, I wonder why she says the things she says. Other times, I wonder where she got the notions that she did. Usually, I just settle most of this by accepting the fact that she's a conservative pundit who's been funded by people I don't like. But usually, when you go down that route, you end up justifying that everybody who says anything wrong is wrong because of some conspiracy. So it's usually best to assume that they're arguing in good faith and tackle what they're saying in good faith. But before we get into the Candace Owens thing, let's go ahead and get into the fan art section as per usual. So first, from Taylor Allen, we have an Eevee Suris, and it is absolutely fucking adorable. For those of you who don't know, I mean, it should be kind of obvious with the shiny Vaporeon on the desk right here, but I'm a massive Pokemon fan. Also, if you guys want to watch me play Pokemon Unite, I've been doing that over on Twitch. You know, on top of all the other stuff that I do on Twitch. And also from Kat, we have the girlfriend Suris from Friday Night Funkin'. I don't know if I'd already shown this. Maybe I have? I don't know. I do these chronologically. Oh, yeah, no, this is a repost. Oh, well, the repost of the girlfriend Suris from Friday Night Funkin'. There should be an entire mod where it's just like that, and then it's, who would boyfriend be fighting? Probably like Jesse Lee Peterson or something. Anyway, as always, thank you all for the fan art submissions. I greatly appreciate them. If you want your fan art to be shown on an episode, the best way to do so is by dropping it into the Discord. Why WhatsApp? Why Ocean? Stop sending me messages when I'm live. Anyway. As always, if you want to see your episode... Fucking, now I'm so off kilter. If you want to see your artwork on an episode, drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. Jesus fucking Christ. Anywho, Candace, hi. Let's have a conversation. It's totally not actually a conversation with Candace. This is a pre-recorded video. But let's argue against the pre-recorded video because that's all anybody does on YouTube anymore.
Okay, I think it's a good start. I mean, I agree.
Okay, nope. Very loud. Very loud. Ow, my brain. Ow. Ow.
Okay, I think it's a good start. I mean, I agree with that, obviously. If there's somebody around you that is being racist, you should hold them accountable and say, hey, that's not really cool. So I thought he's off to a very strong start here.
Okay, so who is she talking about right now? She's currently going over, I don't know if any of you recognized a little while ago, Logan Paul has... She's talking about Logan Paul, and we'll see that here in a second. But Logan Paul... Fuck! I'm tired. Anyway, Logan Paul has been going on a bit of a tirade. And it's not a bad one, since all the BLM stuff started up over again after the George Floyd protests. He's kind of solidified himself as not as problematic of a figure as he used to be. Now, certainly for people like Candace, they would consider him problematic. But for people like me, I'm just like, okay, cool. So you're actually not being a dickhead anymore. So, let's go ahead and continue.
The problem is that he continues.
If you're white, if you look like me, use your privilege. And for those who do not think white privilege exists, you are blind. You are delusional, and you are part of the problem.
Okay, so in the first portion of this clip, he tells us that people shouldn't feign superiority because of the color of their skin. And then in the second part, he has just told me, a black person, that he is better than me. He is...
No, he didn't. What? Where did he say that? Candace, the part of the clip you're referring to, he never actually says that. Like not once. Not once did he say that at all, even in the slightest. He said that white privilege as a concept, as a thing, exists. And that if you have the ability to use it, you should. Now, how would one use their white privilege? Let's go into the assumption that it exists for, because Candace doesn't believe it does. But let's go to the assumption that it exists. How would one utilize it. That's where I would kind of... that's the thing I would hit Logan Paul on, personally. Because it's one thing to tell me to use my white privilege for X, it's another thing to tell me how I should use it. I don't know how I could best utilize mine, aside from the fact that I happen to be a cishet white guy in Georgia, so I blend into a crowd really easily, and there's certain things that can help a lot with, like, say, being at BLM rallies and stuff like that. Or if I had any semblance of power in a company, trying to push forward some form of help to people of color. Like, those are things that I could do, but I don't see how an individual person is going to utilize white privilege when white privilege is a systemic thing. That's the thing I'd hit him on. Like, I agree conceptually with what he's saying. If you are in a position of privilege, help the people who are under you and bring them up. That's a good thing to say. But I do hold a little bit of umbrage with saying white privilege specifically here, not because I don't think it exists, I do know it exists, but because that's a systemic thing, and I don't know how you would, as an individual, utilize your white privilege here. I don't know how you would do that. What Candace thinks he said, though, like, whereas I'm kind of upset about the technicalities, right? Because I don't see how you would functionally do the thing. And if you know a way to, I would prefer you to communicate that to me. What Candace seems to have issue with instead is that apparently by acknowledging that white privilege exists, you apparently are saying that white people are better than black people. That's not what he said, Candace. The acknowledgement of systemic advantages for a particular majority group of people in the country is not an admission that those people are better. All it's an admission to is the fact that some people will have more advantages than others. Not once is it said that they are better than others. Not once is it said that they're superior to others. But it is an admission that there are things that they might not have to experience at the same level as someone who's a person of color. And we've got statistics on this where, as far as discrepancies in policing, discrepancies in how people get convicted. Like, there are areas in which this manifests. There are areas in which this is important. But to sit here and argue that acknowledging that it's a thing is saying that you're better than someone else is probably the most boneheaded way you can possibly respond to this.
More privileged than me because of the color of his skin. And that if I don't buy into the idea of white privilege, meaning that white people are more privileged than me, then
No. You are committing a category error. White people, as a generality, as a system, are generally more privileged than people of color within the borders of the United States, mostly. Generally speaking, there are more privileges afforded to, there are more advantages taken by, and there are more economic, there are definitely economic disparities between white people and people of color. It is not to tell you that you are worse than a white person. I don't know how many times I have to say this. But the category error is where you take this idea of white people as a group, right? As a systemic group that we can see trends in data of, and then you as an individual. The idea of privilege is a sociological idea. It is an analysis of systems in which multiple people exist.
Never.
Individual people may or may not fall into these categories. There are white people that are more disadvantaged than black people, and there are black people who are more advantaged than white people. Also, Tyler Pilots, thank you very much for the follow. The thing is, though, is that the concept of white privilege, and this is the same criticism that I just threw at Logan, Candace. The idea of white privilege is about systems. It is about multiple people. It's about groups. Boiling it as a group of people with a set of data to yourself as an anecdote, as a matter of comparison. My hoodie is broken again. There we go. You cannot compare a group of people within a system and then a single individual. You do not compare data to anecdote. The data and the anecdote exist in two separate categories. The anecdote is important to consider, yes. I at no point am trying to say that your lived experiences are not worth considering. They are. But when we're talking about, again, data, when we're talking about large groups, we are not talking about these easy, one person just destroyed the entire idea of privilege comparisons. As much as the Facebook boomers would like to convince us that that is the case.
And I'm an idiot. Does that make
Actually, no, you are.
any sense? Think about what I'm actually saying here.
I've done that. I'm overanalyzing every word you're saying.
There are a bunch of white people who are doing what he is doing right now. They're going around and saying, I am more privileged than you because of the color of my skin. Okay,
privilege is not better. And again, this is a bunch of people misunderstanding the idea of privilege. It does not... There are individual people who are privileged, yes, but they are points of data in a large group of people. Again, me being a white kid growing up in a black neighborhood, I was not expressly privileged within that neighborhood itself. I experienced racism towards me as a child. But everybody in that neighborhood, in relation to the larger Pensacola area, ended up dealing with all of that shit as well. Now, I need to say it again. A bunch of individuals saying that they are more privileged than you is not them saying they are better than you. Even if I were to take your criticism wholeheartedly without dissecting it, the mere fact that somebody tells you, hey, I'm more privileged than you, that can mean that their parents had more money. That can mean that they were geographically located in a more advantageous area for things like schooling. It can mean literally anything. It is not an attempt to argue that you are superior to any one person. There's nothing about saying I am privileged that says I am superior. In many cases, not all, but in many cases, recognizing that you are privileged is a more humble thing to do than the more, say, narcissistic approach of saying, I did all of this on my own. To ignore the advantages that were granted to you by, say, being born in a household with more money, or, say, being born in a geographical location with better access to education, and in some cases, even just better access to fucking running water. Acknowledging that those are privileges that you get to stand upon is not a boisterous thing. It is a more humble thing. In many cases. I'm not trying to say that there can't be that one person that is going to say that they're white privileged as a way of trying to, like, literally be a fucking supremacist. I'm sure that person exists. I'm sure they do. But I don't think that's what's happening here, Candace. But you seem to think it is. You make the comment earlier about I don't think I'm an idiot. And Candace, I don't think you're an idiot. This is where I go into that difference between good faith and bad faith. If I take what you're saying in bad faith, I'm assuming that it's all coming from the people who are funding you, then I have to say you're a genius. Because what you're doing is creating an environment where channels like me are going to react to you, and you're going to get more money as a result, and there's going to be more eyes on you, and there's going to be more money coming into you as a result, and it's a feedback loop, and it's a genius feedback loop. If I take the good faith response and assume that you mean everything you say wholeheartedly, carte blanche, no problems whatsoever, if and when I do that, I then have to come to the conclusion that you might actually be an idiot. Because if you are being 100% sincere, then this is one of the most boneheaded takes. But if you are doing this as part of, say, a grift, then this is genius. I don't agree with it in either case. In one case, you're saying things against your values for money, and I don't like that. And in the other case, your values are incongruent with mine, and I also don't like that. In either case, we find ourselves at an impasse.
Is that not the very definition of racism? To look at me and to say, you know what, you're black, and therefore you are underprivileged. And look at me, I am white. You're an idiot if you don't see that I am more privileged than you.
In America, right now, it is either the stance of idiocy or ignorance that people of color are not afforded, or to say that people of color are afforded the exact same privileges as everyone else. Because it is to ignore literal reality. It is to ignore the history of redlining in the United States. It is to ignore the disparities in generational wealth in the United States. It is to ignore the disparities in sentencing and police brutality in the United States. To try to argue that as a group, there is not more privilege to be found in being white. That is not a racist statement, Candace. That is merely an analysis of the data. And the data shows that I, as an individual existing in this larger group, am statistically less likely to experience many of the problems that people of color experience in the United States. That's a matter of data, and all of these things are easily verifiable. When you try to argue that that is racism, when you try to argue that it's racist to point out those things, you start reducing the term racism down to mean nothing. It means just like how several people on the right try to say that when we use the word Nazi or we use the word racist or homophobic or etc. so often that it devalues the term. Very much likewise, when you try to say that acknowledging that a group of people might have more privilege than another is racist, I would say that that devalues the term just as much, if not more.
How do people not understand that that is the very definition of racism?
Well, they can understand it because it's not. Like, it's not difficult, Candace. It's not difficult to not understand that that's racism because it's not. It's just not. And hopefully I've demonstrated that here. That said, I do want to know what you guys think. This is a short one, I know. But I need to get more shorter videos out so that I can actually maybe take a break at some point. But I do want to know what you guys think of this particular video. I want to know what your thoughts are on what Candace said, and if my analysis is correct, incorrect, or, somewhere in the middle. I want to know where we agree, where we disagree, and everything else. The best way to do that is letting me know in the comment section below, or if you happen to be watching over on Twitch, letting me know over in the chat room on Twitch. But with that said, if you want to support the channel and what I do, the best way to do so is by checking in the description. There are various links in there you can use to do so. And also, as always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.